Today I'm going to go over how I sold a movie with no sales agent. Most people think that you absolutely need a sales agent to sell a movie, and I'm going to go over why that's not always the case and why, especially if you're an indie filmmaker, why it's not always the best thing that you can do. So most filmmakers, they also put a lot of effort into making their movie. Just development, production, you're talking about something that can take a year, year and a half. It takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of effort, and it's an accomplishment to actually make a movie. It's very hard to make a movie. But then once they finish, a lot of times, at least what I've noticed, filmmakers are tired from all that energy and everything that they've done. So they are kind of ready to hand it off. And a lot of times they'll either go with the first distribution offer that they get, or maybe they'll reach out to a couple, but it usually won't be more than 4 or 5 in most cases. Or they'll go to a sales agent who promises them a lot, and they think, okay, I can hand this off and trust that this is gonna work out now, and then let the sales agent do everything. But nowadays, especially indie filmmaking, that's not the best thing you can do anymore, and it's really not the best way to make back your money. And I think if you're gonna put this much energy into making something, you've accomplished the thing that's the hardest, is making the movie, then I think it's worth either getting someone else on board that knows what they're doing here, or learning about this and putting in that extra time and effort to really make sure you're doing your very best to sell it and get it with the right sales agents or distributors, or do it yourself, which I'm going to explain how I did that with this movie. Before I get into that, I really want to reiterate that a lot of times creatives or people that are very creative, they think they don't need to learn about the business side of indie filmmaking, or they're not interested in it. And that's just not the case anymore. Especially nowadays, you almost have to act like your own studio, like your own mini studio. And yes, it's way harder. And every time I'm on social media, I've seen people complain about that, like, oh, we have to do all this and it's so much harder now and no one sees our movie. It's like, yeah, it's way harder in one hand. You have to do way more effort in the marketing and distribution side than you ever had to do if you want to make sure that you make money and that your movie actually gets seen. That didn't always used to be the case. But on the flip side, movies, it's easier to make movies now than it's ever been. Just in terms of technology, cost of technology going down, you can make a movie for very little. And that's what we did with this movie, or the 2 filmmaker friends that I have, that's what they did with this movie. They made it for very little, and then we were able to sell it for a minimum guarantee. So that means we got money up front before anything else happened. And even if you do get a good sales agent on board, and again, I'm not against sales agents, I'm just against doing the minimum effort for your sales and distribution. So even if you get a good sales agent on board, you still have to be involved. You have to be involved in marketing and distribution. In my eyes, you always have to be involved. You can't just pass it off anymore. So I think it's really important to remember no matter who you work with. So that brings me to my story now, a film that I sold about, at this point, 5 months ago. So my 2 friends came to me with their film and we watched it one night. And this has been a film that they've made a couple of years ago. So this film had been unsold for 4 years and they hadn't really done anything with it. And we watched it and I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good. This is really good. You know, it's an entertaining movie. It's fun to watch. I'm like, why didn't you guys do anything with this or try to sell it? And they just didn't know how, or they didn't get enough interest early on. And that's the case for a lot of filmmakers. So I told them, it's like, okay, well, why don't I try? I'll give it a shot and try selling this movie. How hard can it be, right? So, but, you know, like anything, it's always harder than you think it is. But to me, I thought, okay, it's just sales like anything else. So all I'm just gonna do here is I'm selling a movie instead of a product or a service. So the first thing that I did was chart out my strategy. And part of my strategy was I'm not gonna use a sales agent, because the scale of this movie and budget and everything, there's just not gonna be any high up sales agents that are gonna be very interested in this movie. And there's not going to be many sales agents that are going to prioritize this. There's just not enough money for them, and it's going to be hard to see for them how they can make a lot of money off this. So I figured, okay, I'm going to go and act as the sales agent myself and just go directly to all these sales agents, and that's what I did. And the good thing is that also saves a large percentage that they would have to give the sales agent, because since they're my friends, I gave them obviously an amazing deal. So they ended up having to spend way less and keeping more money for themselves. So the first thing that I did was I gathered all their marketing materials. That includes their poster, their trailer, anything else that's relevant. And what I also did separately is I really keyed in on who their target audience was. And that's something that not a lot of filmmakers do. They're usually very involved in terms of like, okay, poster, trailer and all the creative stuff, they don't focus enough on what makes this sellable, what is their built-in audience. So I focused both on one of their Instagram followings and also the built-in audience for this niche. I did that with stats and everything, and which I'll show you in the email that I sent, so you have an idea. And that's just really important, because you have to show how it's going to make money. You have to speak their language, not your language, not like your creative language or the emotion that this movie meant to you. They don't care about that. What they care about is, how is this going to make numbers? How is this going to make money? So that's what you have to show them. You have to speak their language. So like I said, here's the email that I'm going to show you right here. This will show you exactly what I emailed to all these distributors. And as you can see, I focused on the fitness community as a target audience, and I gave them some numbers around that. I also mentioned 2 people in their team to show some social media following and that they can use to promote the film. This is all really important, because I'm showing that you don't have to do everything yourself. We have a plan, we have team members that are on board with doing as much as possible to promote the film. So from that email, we actually got 7 distribution offers, and 2 of those were from pretty big distribution companies. So that was already a huge win. But the biggest win was that we actually got a minimum guarantee offer, which is pretty insane nowadays, because not a lot of movies get a minimum guarantee anymore, especially it's low budget indie movies. And this was a movie that was made for less than 100K. So that's, everyone that I've talked to, they don't think that's possible. So we got a minimum guarantee and got paid up front for a movie that was incredibly low budget and had been sitting there for 4 years. I also want to talk about that these 2 other offers that we got, I'm not going to name names here, but the other 2 offers that we got were from bigger companies, and like 2 of them, and pretty well-known companies. So they would give more name recognition. And look, that factored in. Like, I know for the filmmakers, they heavily considered it, because they're like thinking about basically how much legitimacy it gives them. But at the end of the day, it doesn't help you that much just saying that you got this distributor. These distributors, their terms were pretty bad. So both of these distributors, they gave us a terrible deal, honestly. No minimum guarantee, but also a huge percentage that they took, pretty big percentage. And then they also had a pretty high spend per year on what they said was their spend on the movie per year, and which was a little bit insane how high it was, because I know they're not spending that. But you know, that happens a lot with these distribution companies, and one of the ways that they make money. But so I advised not doing that. We ended up not doing that, and we ended up going with the company that gave us a minimum guarantee and also showed us how transparent they were going to be per quarter, showing us how much they're selling and everything, which was important for us. And also, I want to add on to that, you do have to negotiate. So that's one of the advantages of a sales agent, if you don't know how to negotiate, is that they do it for you. But you do have to negotiate. We negotiate some terms on this deal that we didn't like and changed slightly. Some they didn't want to move on, so we had to decide if we wanted to take that, which we also did. And you can negotiate with all of them. All of them expect you to negotiate. This goes for everything in filmmaking, by the way. That goes for dealing, like negotiating deals with crew. It's negotiating deals with actors. Shouldn't just throw out the first best offer and just take that. You should negotiate. There's nothing wrong with, you want to end up somewhere that's good for both of you, but you do have to negotiate if you want to actually be able to make a movie within budget and also make money. So from this deal, obviously the filmmakers were really happy. They both were really happy with that, and they both got money up front and more than they expected. And not only that, it's also on track to make a profit, which is something that is very unexpected, and they definitely weren't thinking about, because they hadn't looked at this movie in 4 years. So this was a huge win for them, and also really fun for me to help them in that way too. You know, and it was a fun learning experience, because I just realized that it's not really that much different than any other type of business in terms of you sell and you negotiate. And that's what you have to, those are the 2 skills that you really need to learn. I also want to add on that in this case, we did do worldwide rights, which, you know, sometimes if that's the best deal, that's the one you take. But you can also do individual rights, which is what I plan on doing most of the time. And so, unless, of course, a worldwide rights just gives us an amazing deal. But you can get individual rights and sell them individually. So you can sell, let's say, North American or even just USA rights. You can sell Holland, Spain, Australia. You can sell those all individually to distributors in those countries. In my eyes, that will probably, for a lot of filmmakers, give them their best deal. So that's what I plan on doing on this next movie. On this next movie, I'm selling a higher budget movie, which I'm really excited about. It's a really beautiful movie. It's really well done. And I think, and of course I'll update since I won't know for sure, but I think it's going to make the most money selling the individual rights in different countries. And we'll see how it goes. I'll keep you guys updated with that and on the next video when I end up selling this movie. But that's what I think, just because then you have individual places giving you money, and sometimes worldwide rights same like with the sales agent that I said initially, that you're paying for the convenience of it. So if I'm giving worldwide rights away, it's like, okay, I go to one person, deal with one person. It's way more convenient, but a lot of times less money. So if you're willing to do more work, you could literally have 20, 30 distributors and overall make a lot more money. And all it really costs you is, well, a lot more effort. I hope that helped, and I'll keep you guys updated on basically how this next movie goes and how the individual territories go. I'm excited to share that. And of course, if you guys have any questions in how to sell and kind of what those deal terms looked like, or any really specific questions that I didn't put here at all, in terms of contract or even some of the negotiations we dealt with, then, feel free to reach out, make a comment down below, and I'll definitely try my best to answer them. Anyway, hope that helps. I'll see you guys next week. Thanks.